of. It is 2 on the dot. So I think we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm sure some people will still trickle in, and that's all right. So for those who are here, welcome to today's webinar. I hope that you're staying cool. We are all very hot. I think most of the country is at this point. So today's webinar is SEO Masterclass for manufacturers. We're super excited about this topic, and we will be breaking down everything that you need to know about SEO. We have an awesome panel of speakers today, including Tyler, Emily, and Anna. And then Angela and I will be here to help answer questions or facilitate some of the stuff that comes in through the chat, if anything does. And so on that note, go ahead and submit any questions that you might have along the way in the chat box or the questions panel, and we'll be monitoring those throughout. So I'm not going to waste any time, and I'm going to send it right over to our panelists to get started.
Perfect. So we'll start out, just give you a kind of layout of the topics that we'll be going through today. First one is just a generalization of what is SEO. Just trying to figure out what the basics of it is, how it improves your online visibility, how it can help you, really just kind of getting the base for SEO specifically. For the next one is SEO for manufacturers, just really exploring those tactics that are great for the manufacturing industry, how to use it to your benefit, to your business, and figure out where it can be really beneficial as a whole. Thirdly, it is understanding technical SEO. It's technical SEO isn't the easiest to understand or figure out how to use it, but just really figuring out what it is and how it can be used to your website's favor to benefit your users. And then finally is optimizing the content for your website. Just really learning how to create that best content, where it can be implemented, what you can do, what different type of content can be used, and so much more. So we'll dive into this in a little bit more.
Alrighty, so to kick things off, we are going to start off with a poll. So pretty straightforward question: what aspects of SEO are you familiar with? So just take a minute or two to review any and check all or any that apply. And it's also okay if you don't check any. This will kind of just give us a better idea of who is here with us today.
Yeah, this is great because a lot of our topics that we were just talking within our recent team lunch really kind of hone in on this.
Yeah, we didn't even plan that timing. It just kind of happened.
All right, we'll let a couple more people enter their submissions, and we are almost there. Okay, I am going to end the poll. So it looks like I can share the results. So as you can see, the winner was keyword research, but then everybody, there's a little bit of a variable between all the others.
It looks like the least amount in technical SEO, which I think makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, keyword research. That's good to hear that a lot of people are familiar with that, because I think that's it's a big starting point for SEO, and we'll talk a lot about that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to stop sharing this. Okay.
All right. So first, we are going to dive into what is SEO. If SEO is brand new to you, you may be a little bit overwhelmed today, but to talk about SEO in a nutshell, it stands for search engine optimization. So you've built this beautiful website. Now the goal is to get your customers to find you online. So something that we'll talk a lot about is when you hear things word of mouth and then you head straight to Google and you're looking for just general business information and just researching a company before you submit a quote or give them a call. One thing I do want to keep in mind is that today we are not talking about anything related to paid ads. So anything with Google ads or Microsoft ads is not a topic for today, but I hope I'm not, spoiler alert, that might be our next webinar, Martha. It's all about paid.
Yeah, stay tuned for information about that a little bit later this summer.
Perfect. So yes, today we are talking about just search engine optimization on the organic side, or things to do to optimize your website to show up in Google. So the various areas of a search engine is called the SERP. You'll hear us mention the word SERP in today's webinar or in different meetings with us. It stands for the search engine results page. So when you type something into Google or Bing or whatever search engine, the page that shows up is a search engine results page. And there are many components of that page. So when we talk about the features of a SERP, we have organic listings, which, if you can hopefully see my mouse here, I just typed in what is SEO. And then we have a what is SEO from search engine land. This is an organic search. Here's another organic listing. In the middle, there's something called people also ask. Now, because I searched a question specifically, other questions come up. I'm sure you've all seen this, but it'll have more answers as you click into these listings. Another one is the maps listing. I think we're all pretty familiar with that, making sure your Google business profile is optimized. And then over here, this section is often referred to as a snippet or a rich snippet. And the last one, I missed one, over here is called the knowledge panel. So there's a ton of these features, and I'll ask Anna and Tyler in a minute if I missed any. But the goal here is to make sure that your business shows up in as many of these as possible. So if you can show up organically and have a people also ask, 2 points for you. If you can also have your business listed in the maps listing, 3 points. There are different strategies that we'll talk through today of how to optimize your business for multiple areas of the search engine. Because there are different tactics that you can use to show up in different areas. So before I go too much further, Tyler and Anna, did I miss any in these screenshots or anything?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple in there. One very similar to the people also ask in the people also search for, relative terms, stuff, different items along those lines. Videos is another opportunity to showcase for within the SERP. And that's a continuously growing area that is continuously showing up. And then images as well. You can kind of see that a little bit with the powder coating, but there's a greater kind of snip or a greater feature within the SERP within those images.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one simple thing, I mean, you guys could do this right now, open another tab in your browser and type in, it could be just your business name or just a very broad term of what people would search for, what they would type in when they're looking for your business, and make a list. Where are you showing up? Are you maybe showing up in a paid ad? And that's the only thing. That means your website needs to be optimized a little bit more for that specific term. Or maybe you have your Google My Business or Google Business Profile, as it's now called, set up. That's awesome. If you're not showing up here, maybe that's a chance to optimize it. So just do a search and start making a list. Very easy, actionable item. Let's see, Tyler or Anna, have you done any client work to specifically optimize for one area of the search engine?
Yeah, I think one way to identify low-hanging fruit per se is regarding featured snippets. Optimize those for keywords that you're already ranking for. And you can easily find those using a variety of keyword research tools. We personally use SEMrush at Top 4, but there's many out there that you can use. But I think this is especially important if any of your opportunity keywords are already triggering a featured snippet from another website. So take that opportunity and provide an even better answer. And that could be simply providing a more up-to-date answer or providing further context. I mean, if you're already ranking for those keywords, kind of take that opportunity and run with it, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Alrighty. The big question of the day, why does SEO matter? Okay, so our first bullet point here, it's going to help customers find you online. So I'm going to start out with a little trivia. So in 1997, there were approximately 1 million websites in existence. By 2000, there were 17 million websites. And now in 2022, there are approximately 2 billion websites in existence. Their internet is huge and it's always expanding. So SEO is important because without it, you're just going to get lost amongst all these other websites and no one's actually going to reach your website. And if no one is reaching your website, why would you even have a website, even if it's a good one? And this kind of plays into word of mouth, like we've been talking about as well. At the end of the day, 99% of the time, people are still going to Google your business and go online and do their own research. So SEO also plays into word of mouth, which is my second bullet point I have. Number 3, it'll get you ahead of competition. And I mean this figuratively and literally, that SEO can help you get ahead of competition. Chances are businesses currently dominating your market probably know a thing or two about SEO. So if you don't have a strong SEO strategy or any strategy at all, you're never going to beat them in a competitive market. So you really need to focus on building a strong online organic presence to get ahead of the competition and outrank them in the search results.
Yeah, I think one note I have to add too on that is your competitors in the marketplace most likely are also going to be different than the competitors online. So your competition down the street might not do SEO at all, or maybe they do. But when somebody searches your term, you're going to notice other websites that are competing with you, whether they're your competition or even like industry publications. I have one client that for a long time for their main keyword, we ranked like 1 and 2 consistently. And all of a sudden we dropped down to like 4 or 5, which Anna will get into later. Like the farther you go down the page, the less clicks you're going to receive. So I dove into it. And what I found was that an industry publication was outranking us for like the top companies to go with for this product. And I'm like, this is tough. I'm not going to be able, realistically, I wasn't going to be able to outrank this giant industry publication. So if you can't beat them, join them. So we're like, how do we get on this list? The end of the story, I still compete with them all the time, but it's not somebody that's our competition. It's just the competition on the SERP. So just keep an eye out for those things too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think
Even
SEO
if
sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Even if they're not finding, or I'm sorry, if they're not finding you, they're going to find somebody else,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think this gives a lot, SEO just gives a lot of insight into your own business as well. Companies that you have thought have been your competitors for the last 10 years, if you do a Google search for your company or that term, if they're not even showing up, they're not necessarily, really considered your digital competitors online. And it just opens up a whole new door to who are you really stacking up against online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. And we'll kind of get into that in a few more slides of how to perform that competitive research and find your online competitors. But my 4th bullet point here is it builds authority and brand trust. So authority in terms of SEO is essentially the value that a search engine is assigning your webpage. The domain authority of a website is going to describe its relevance for a specific subject area or industry, and that relevance is going to have a direct impact on your ranking by search engines like Google. So the higher the value it puts on your website, the more authority your site has, and the more likely you're going to show up earlier in those search results. And I think it also has the power to be the answer to potential customers' questions. So not only are you becoming more visible online, but you're also contributing to your authoritative voice in the field, and authority leads to brand trust, which ultimately leads to brand loyalty. So SEO for manufacturers, why is it important? Now that we kind of have discussed what SEO is, why it's important, let's kind of dive into SEO specifically for manufacturers. So first of all, brand awareness. SEO and brand awareness go together. Although search engine optimization is mostly used to generate organic traffic, it's also going to strengthen your branding and increase brand awareness. So when you are showing up on Google's first page, you're gaining that visibility, you're building that trust and authority, and you're also producing engagement for your brand and increasing recognition in your market. Number 2, everyone uses Google. I always say how many times I Google a day, constantly Googling things, questions, products, services. There are about 5.6 billion searches per day. So a lot of people are using Google and other search engines, but organic results in spots 1 through 5. So on that first page, spots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that accounts for 67% of clicks. Actually, only 25% of users are going on to that second page of the search results. So you really want to be showing up on that first page and as high as up as you can.
Anna, did you say that 25% of people go to the second page?
Yes, about only 25%.
I feel like that's even higher than I was thinking. Like if I'm searching something, you're talking about like 1 to 5. I search something, I scroll down a little, I'm like, nope, that's not it. And I put in something else, search in the next term, don't even make it to the bottom. That's not it. So every time I head to Google for one search, I'm Googling like 5 times in one. So when you said 25%, I was like, really? That many people make it to the second page?
Maybe it's lower now, but
right.
I do have a question for you, Emily and Tyler. Are there any strategies that you have used with any clients to that you've seen success in ranking well in search engines?
Yeah, there's some. Definitely looking at the competitors has been a key thing for us with the rankings and trying to get a little higher, use that strategy to move up the list a little bit more. I think that's kind of been the biggest thing that I've used is seeing what they're doing, because it's, as we talked about earlier, staying ahead of the competition is crucial. So I think that's one big thing that one strategy I've used specifically is looking into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the game of SEO, is what can I do to get higher and higher in the search engine until I'm number 1. So like Tyler said, looking at the competition, seeing what they're doing, and we'll talk about this more later, but evaluating your content on your website to make sure it's actually resonating with your audience, and what you have on the website is relevant, and your keywords are also relevant too. I think thankfully a lot of people are familiar with keyword research now, but I think too often we go after keywords that might have a high search volume. A lot of people are looking for it, but it's not completely related to the page or your service offering at all. So just being very careful about what you're targeting versus the content on your website to make sure you're ranking well in the right space.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Third bullet point I have here is going to be search intent. So search intent is the reason why someone conducts a specific search. So is someone looking for an answer to a question they have? Are they looking for a specific website? Or are they searching online because they want to buy something? Many of these searches are part of that user's journey online, but they oftentimes represent different stages of the funnel. So if you understand what users are searching for, you can walk them through every step of that buyer's journey by creating content for each of those steps.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important. I think too often we'll put money into SEO, but only if it's like we get a direct return immediately. Like you're in front of the customers that have their wallets out ready to buy. There's so much value in getting to the people that just need help. They have questions, they have a problem, your company has the solution. So writing content just to answer those FAQs, questions that your sales team is getting, to show them that you're the expert and you're willing to be their partner, will definitely pay off when they pull out their money. So
yeah, some people just need to be nurtured a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of just need to be there for them at every step of the way.
Yeah, especially when it's a large purchase. It's not just any small, I need a spare part. It's like you're buying a full machine for your company. You're looking for a long-term partner they
Yep.
need more, like you said, more nurturing.
Yeah. So we actually have an action item that we encourage everybody to do. And that is to talk to your sales team and really try to learn about your customer pain points. And then Google those. What kind of results are showing, and ask yourself what type of content that you can create to help guide the customer and maybe solve that problem for them or answer their question that they have.
When is the last time you did keyword research for your website? So really kind
Right.
of,
Go ahead.
oh no, it's fine, go ahead.
I was just gonna go ahead and launch the poll.
Yeah.
I will do that right now.
6
And-
months, a year, or over a year?
Yeah, and at top floor, our big recommendation is to make sure to try to do keyword research at least once a year. The industry is always kind of growing, always changing. Competition is changing as well. So
Mhm.
always kind of recommend that 1 year mark to always
Yeah.
kind of stay ahead of the game.
And the search engine is also changing. That same client I was talking about earlier, one of their main product lines actually, when you search the keyword that we were targeting, now shows up like B2C results, like how to do this at home, where I'm like, this is not the space I want to play in anymore. So we really had to shift and figure out, where's our audience looking? So not only
Gotcha.
people, but the search engine.
Okay. We've got a good number of people who have participated, so I'm going to go ahead and share these.
Oh,
So it looks like people are kind of on their game.
yeah, impressive.
All right.
Awesome. Last 6 months.
Okay, so where do you start? I think this is probably one of the hardest steps, is kind of figuring out where to start, especially when you're beginning. SEO can seem very overwhelming, but we have 2 things here today that'll kind of break it up and just a good way to kickstart your SEO strategy. So the first thing we recommend is to look at what competition is, Google industry terms and look at what competition is present. Look at the types of results, whether those are product pages, blogs, really look at what SERP features are showing up. And then start clicking just on some of the websites that are ranking and look at their website. What content do they have? What kind of page structure are they using? Obviously, we don't want to just copy, but you can definitely use it as inspiration for your own SEO strategy.
Mhm. And like Anna said, when you're Googling these terms, make sure you're thinking about what your customers are searching for. They might not know the product name, but they're searching a question about the problem that they're having. So is it a question, or is it like another relevant term that's related, but not exactly what your company calls it, if that makes
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, and we've come across that. I specifically with one of our clients, there's a couple different names for the type of weigher. So looking into figuring out how can we incorporate each term to make sure that we're not only ranking well for the one that they prioritize, but also maybe that the industry prioritizes as well. So looking into
Mhm.
each kind of sides of things to make sure that we're using alternate terms that the customers may know.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of plays into keyword research, which I'm glad there's a lot of people that are familiar with it. But for those of you who aren't, what is keyword research? It is the process by which you research popular search terms that people are typing into search engines like Google. And then you include those strategically in your content so that your result appears higher on that search engine results page. It really is one of the most fundamental practices in SEO. And there are a variety of keyword research tools out there that you can use to generate ideas and identify those valuable keywords. And when I say valuable keyword, what is a valuable keyword? It's going to be a keyword that is obviously relevant to your business, website, or a specific page on your website, but one that also contains search volume. And search volume indicates the number of search queries for a specific search term in a search engine within a given time frame. And if you take a look at this screenshot here, that first column, you'll see the keywords. That second column, this one's actually kind of new. It's the intent of the keyword, so that can help with creating content. You can look at that column. But search volume. One thing to remember about search volume is that the higher volume a keyword has, the more competitive it's probably going to be. So we always try to find like a happy medium. So a keyword that has a decent amount of volume behind it, but won't be impossible to rank for. And that is going to differ from business to business, but the simplest answer is to, I'd say, aim for a minimum volume of 50 all the way up to like 1,000 searches per month.
And as you evaluate your keyword research, many manufacturing companies are so niche that it's hard to find keywords for each page. So Anna mentioned like the 50 search volume. The reality is that for your business, you're like, nothing's even coming close to 50. And that's okay. Just evaluate your space and see, you know, what keywords show up for you.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, there's some clients that, like you said, they're so niche that they might have, their keywords might be a volume of 20 or a volume of 30. And even that is good. You know, if there's something behind it and people are searching for it, and if you can be that first result, they're going to click on you. But
Hey,
once you go ahead.
Sorry. Are you at a good place to answer a question? Or do you want to finish up? Okay. We had one pop in. Jason says, when doing SEO competitor research, will my search results be biased because I spend so much time on my own company's website?
Yes. So that's a really, you said Jason, what's the name? Jason, that's a really great point. I would recommend doing incognito mode. That'll kind of scrape all your history, because you're right, it will definitely skew the results. And even where you're physically located. That's another one too. If your company services the entire US or even international, Google naturally, like especially the maps listing, it's going to show where your physical laptop is when showing results.
Really good question.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
No more have come in yet, but just as a reminder, go ahead and keep asking them.
Okay, but once you perform the keyword research and you identify the keywords that you want to rank for, that's when you'll start inserting them within different areas of your website. So some places would be in your page headers, throughout your page content, but don't overdo it. Don't keyword stuff. Google doesn't like that. Just make it sound natural. You can also include it in your title tags or meta descriptions. There are a variety of places that you should be putting these keywords. So our action item here, take a look at your competitors. And with that being said, we can kind of segue into the next slide.
Yeah, perfect.
And I have a question for you quick before we move on. How many keywords do you recommend you choose per page or per product?
Good question. I think probably 2, I'd say, is like the normal standard. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to target too much in a page, but I would say 1 to 2. That's really all you need.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think it starts to lose focus. And Google's like, so what is your page about? You're trying to talk about 3 things in one. It doesn't work.
And then is there a recommended how many times it's mentioned on the page? I know you said it should be natural, but should you be aiming for at least a specific number?
I don't think there's a magic number, but I think just really making sure it's included in your page header, your title tag, your meta description, and then maybe once or twice throughout the page content. So don't overdo it, but there are a few key areas where you should definitely include them.
Yeah, there's definitely that fine line between what's right and keyword stuffing. There's that fine line that you just kind of use your best judgment to kind of figure out what it is.
Yeah. If it starts to become really obvious, if you're like, what is SEO? So you're wondering what is SEO? Like, it like keeps going and you're like, okay, just we're gonna stop.
And you will see that.
Yes.
We will
That's
tell
right.
you what is SEO. Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
Keyword
obvious.
stuffing is one of those buzzwords. Are you going to be penalized by Google for keyword stuffing?
Yes, Google does not like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too spammy, I guess, is a easy way to put it. Like, they know what you're trying to do and you're not being helpful to your customer. You're just trying to play the algorithm.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
think it reads well to the customer either. I mean, it doesn't sound natural, like you said, make it sound natural. Otherwise, it's just not even appealing to read.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, it's
Right
an
for
art form.
customers, not for Google. Google is basically human at this point. So
Seriously, I agree.
So as we look into kind of like the competitor side of things, we've mentioned it a couple of times with the competitor research and started talking a little bit about it with the question, but there's a few different things that you can look for within your competitor research. We've mentioned a few of these, but the competitor keywords is the real big one. And that kind of dives into alternate terms that they may use as well. And this is where we may kind of ask our clients to say, okay, is this keyword relevant to your industry, to your term, your market, and kind of find ways to then incorporate that into the content. Next is the types of contents, and that's really the details that you have. Is it where's the specifications, the technical details of your products? What's the intent of the content? Is it informational? Is it transactional? What are you trying to get out of that user when they come to your page? So really looking at the competition to see what they're doing, what's not maybe is what working poorly for them, but what's working well and how you can adapt that into your page as well.
And to that piece too, that's what the details in the content is what connects to what we talked about in the beginning with the search engine results page. So what's included on your content in the details, that's how you can rank. Okay, I'm going for that. The people also ask questions. That'll be your FAQ section. You're going for the knowledge panel. That might be your features, benefits, specifications, like Tyler said. So it all works together.
Yeah, and then the last one is the page layout. So looking at their product detail page, where on that page are they including it? Is it above the folds right when that page loads, or is it further down? Where are they locating that information? Because that can be beneficial to where your information should be, maybe to mirror what's working well for them. So. And that's a big thing, is that scroll depth. We talk about who's going to page 2. The scroll depth is, there's maybe 10% of people that will scroll to the bottom of the page at most. So really taking a look at that, where the information is located.
Mm-hmm. And one of the image here in SEMrush, Anna mentioned that tool when we were talking about keyword research. You can see what competition is showing up for those searches, and SEMrush is a great tool. So going actually back to Jason's question, if you're worried about, your own search history, using a third-party tool like SEMrush might help really see a more broad picture of who is showing up in the search engine.
So when the featured snippets are at the top there, are those also counting as ranking placements? Like, when we talked about the Google Maps listing at the top, typically that's like 1 or 2 down after an organic result. Are those counting as 3, 4, 5?
That's, I don't want to say a hard question to answer, but there's different ways. Like another tool that we use is called Stat, and it gives us a number of where you're ranking only if you count the organic posts, which would consider a snippet. I don't think it considers maps, since maps typically show up on the right-hand side. It's not like in the list. But then there's also a number to say, if we include your Google ads, you might show up 1 organically, but if we include ads, you're 4th. So there are like two different numbers to see exactly what your question is. Sorry, Tyler, were you going to jump in on that too?
No, that was exactly what I was going to say. So,
Okay.
Speaking of questions, we had one more that came in that we're kind of hopping back a little bit to what Anna was talking about when she mentioned including those important keywords in the header, page title, meta description. Kevin is wondering, is there anywhere else that you wanted to just call out, like maybe the alt tags or file names or anything else like that?
Yeah, image alt tags, you definitely could. If you have an image on a page, labeling it with a keyword helps. Tyler and Emily, anything else you can think of where they should put it?
Yeah, you talked about content. I think an area that sometimes gets missed is the URL itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you can put the keyword there, great. Again, this goes back to keyword stuffing. Like if it doesn't really make sense, don't do it. And even in your menu, like navigation dropdown, like what shows up in product names, even changing that. Again, if it is helpful for the customer, don't just do it because it's a keyword. But those are two other areas that I would add to that list too.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
These are good questions. All right, I'll flip back ahead here. Technical SEO.
All right.
Shifting
the
gears.
Fun part. The fun part. So there's a lot that goes into technical SEO. We're just going to kind of cover the basics and some of the linking as well. And we'll start out with site speed. Core Web Vitals was a huge push last year for mobile side within Google, and site speed's huge because it's a ranking factor. If your page isn't loading fast enough, or there's an image that's causing your content to bounce down after it loads and the page is loaded, that can be some points, a minus point towards you when Google's ranking your site. There's a variety of different things that go into it. And it's also huge for user interaction, which is maybe even more important because, as we've mentioned before, if it goes back to like if your result isn't on page one, maybe you'll search for a different term. If that page doesn't load right away, that user may not stay on that page and they may leave to go somewhere else.
For my world, like you've got 3 seconds and like one attempt at me trying to refresh the website, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going somewhere else. And maybe I'm biased, like I won't give them time.
I also like associate it with being a spammy site, which could be like so far from the truth, but
that's a good point.
Yeah.
You're like, what's on here that's not loading?
Yeah.
With that as well, in going to your site as a whole, is the sitemap. Making sure that the pages that you want being crawled by Google are being showcased and being featured in those SERPs that you want them to be. You may not want a login page or something along those lines to be on your sitemap, or being indexed as a whole. So looking at that sitemap and figuring out what is best to be showcased there. So I know I've had some run-in with this. It wasn't a website that Top Floor built, but we had they had come to us as a question, and when we looked at their sitemap as a whole, we looked at it and the whole site was being no indexed. It was being blocked by their robots.txt. So the client was very confused in why they weren't being shown in their results. And well,
you told Google not to look for you.
Yeah, you told Google not to look for you. So it was, once we relayed that information to them, they resolved it and we were able to fix it and get them back up and running. But it's one of those that you may not think about, but it's something that is a very crucial factor.
Yeah. And on that same topic, there are pages of your website that you might want no indexed. I know Anna and I have a client and they had a new product coming out and they wanted the page like ready to go on the day it was launching. So we just no indexed that page so nobody could find it. Truthfully, if you had the exact URL, sure, you could find it, but you're not going to. So it does come in handy if you use it the right way.
Perfect. And then this goes into the sitemap as well, just in a general question, making sure Google can see your website, because if you can't be found, there's no reason to do these optimizations to your contents. Make sure your keywords are being emphasized that you want to be targeting within each specific page. So just really asking and looking deep down, can Google find that website? So next is the linking as a whole. And it's kind of crucial because you want to take a look and really look at that internal linking and make sure, whether it's a blog, whether it's a product page, an industry page, making sure that you're guiding each user to that next page, or even to that converting point where it's a contact us form, a request for quote, whatever your end goal is, make sure you're directing them to that. And it's very crucial because if they're on a blog, the bounce rate is typically very high. So you want to make sure that you're leading them. Okay, let's direct them to that product that they were searching for to get to that screen.
I think a lot of the time when people think of internal links, they think of text links. Like you're mentioning in a blog, it might mention a product name. So you're linking where it says the product name over to that product page. But also keeping in mind, there's like design elements that you can add. So to a product page, say you're on a product, like a single product page, on the bottom, a section that says other products related, or I think we've all seen this on our personal searches, but here's some other recommendations, or on a blog, here's some recommended blogs based on the blog you're on. So it doesn't always have to be internal links. It can be really nice design elements that add to this category of internal linking.
And that,
I was just going to ask, we had one more question in that kind of bounced back to indexing. Hot topic. So Kevin's wondering if there's a way to see exactly which pages are indexed. He said, for example, they have 30,000 product pages and not all of them are indexed, and there's not really a good way to see which ones are and which ones are not.
there's some tools that we use specifically, like one Screaming Frog that can do a crawl of your whole website, and that's a real easy way. For a larger crawl as such, you may need a licensed program or a license to be able to do that larger crawl. So
Tyler, could they also look at their like sitemap or robots file?
Yeah, you could. The robots will show what is blocked. So
that would be a smaller list.
Yeah, that would be a smaller list.
Yeah, if you're concerned about what pages are being blocked, look at your robots.txt file. So you're not like playing what's missing from this giant list. That might work. Yeah, otherwise, like you said, Screaming Frog is a great tool.
Yeah. So either or would definitely be probably your best option with that. And then the next couple here, we have backlinks. So that's really diving into what directories are relevant to your website, where can you do a guest post or a guest blog, news article written about some great product that you just released or are really trying to focus on this quarter. Some different ways with backlinks, and we do that as well as like an analysis with competitors to see what they're doing.
Yeah, one thing also for backlinks, and I just did this with a client, they have like a partners page on their website. So if you have businesses that you already have a good relationship with and maybe partner with, maybe they sell your products, reach out to them and ask if they can include a backlink to your website. And you can say, hey, we'll do the same in return. So they're getting something out of it too. But yeah, a lot of times, these people that you partner with, they might already have like a little blurb on their website about you. So inserting a link would be so simple to do. Just reach out to them, ask them, and then in return, you could give them a backlink as well.
And then the last portion is schema as a whole. So this is really, you may need to get your developers involved with this or whoever works on the back end of the websites, but looking through to see there's different varieties. It's a code that helps Google understand what the page is a little further about, whether it's a news article, local markup to showcase where your business is located, or even product markup to kind of showcase that specific product. Let them know what the description is, the image, the price point if it's listed on your website. There's a variety of different things that can be outlined to help Google understand that page. And then why is this all important? It starts out with user interaction. You want to make sure that the user has the best experience with your website, because that first impression can mean everything. It may be their first, maybe their 100th time on your website, but you want to make sure every single time they're using their voice to echo it to someone else. Hey, you should really go to xyz.com. Really go there. They have a great website, great products. Mobile first indexing is a huge push by Google, and site speed is also huge, as they are also ranking factors. Want to take that into effect. And then just really to summarize this whole page as a whole slide is, if no one can find your website, there isn't really a reason to create that great content. So making sure you're doing the little things to make the big things worth it. All right, and then with the best practices and algorithm updates, we'll dive in here, just some recent stuff that Google's done. The recent one in November was a product review, more relative to e-commerce, and it's just really kind of outlines the importance of those product reviews and what they can do for your product. I know some of us look at product reviews a little closer than others, and can definitely be a determining factor in if we purchase or not.
Yeah, I know we talked about earlier, like these are not small purchases. They're sometimes $1 million investments. And so if there's reviews, that is really going to help. Even if, I mean, maybe this is a personal example, but if I have two products I'm stuck between and one has reviews and one has, even if it's like a 4-star, not a perfect review, versus a website that has none, at least this side, I kind of know what the customers have experienced, and I am probably going to go with that one just because I'm talking to real people on the website. So that's huge.
Next one, right around that time as well, was the mobile continuous scroll. So when you're searching on your phone, as it's growing and growing, people using mobile rather than their desktop, when you're searching for plastic coatings or a specific term, instead of going to page 2 on your Chrome browser or whatever search engine you're using on your phone, it's that continuous search. So once you scroll down, you click load more, and then more results show up. So instead of going to page 2, that's how things are showing up. So it's just more of the little things and taking a look at where you can rank, and the higher you can rank within those pages. And then lastly, and this is also our action item as well, is Google Analytics 4. It's the talk of the digital marketing world right now, as next year, July 1st of 2023, it's going to go in full effect. And what we're doing at Top Floor and what we're recommending for you as a client is to have your Google Analytics 4 property set up by July 1st, or as soon as possible, because it's something going to be crucial to have as much historical data, because we don't know what Google's going to keep from the previous analytics version and what is going to stay. But one important note with that is to make sure you're still tracking your information through the current analytics, because you still want to have that. Google Analytics 4 is still growing. They're still defining what it is and what it isn't. So want to have both of them running as quickly as possible.
All right, we're going to dive into content now to wrap things up. And a lot of this we have touched on already in the presentation. So again, meet your customer where they're at, think about how they are searching, and be there to help them problem solve. Again, these are not small not a small investment, they're large investments. So just partner with them and write content that shows that you're there to help and answer questions. Think about pain points, relate to them, solve their problems, and build trust. We talked about learning from the competition. So yes, your direct competition and the competition in the SERP, and not even the people or the companies that are selling the same products and services as you, but maybe other industry leaders, like I mentioned, the other publications. Maybe it's somebody in another industry that is kind of, maybe their website is similar to yours in some ways, to get those ideas of what to include in your content. And based on that, again, that'll help you rank for various areas of the search engine results page. One idea too that we have is monitoring social media. So I know it sounds a little odd, but have somebody on your marketing team or within your company be a part of different social media groups. Like on LinkedIn, there's all kinds of LinkedIn groups, or even online forums. And their only purpose is to look at what people are talking about. What are their questions? What are they going to the internet for that your company can help with? And sure, participate in those conversations there, but also create blogs or ebooks or whatever content on your website to, again, meet them where they're at. Another feature, if you were here super early in the webinar, we were talking about this, is YouTube added a capability in April. If you have a YouTube channel, there's now a feature where you can see what users were searching for in YouTube to look for a video. I'm not saying make a whole YouTube channel video production. I'm saying take those terms and apply them to your website. So what blogs can you write? What product or industry pages or process pages, whatever, can you bring those ideas from YouTube over to your website? So just connecting all these little bits of information. Let's see. And then from there, look at the content you have and where are there gaps. So you've looked at your competition, you've looked at social media, you've looked at YouTube, you've looked at your current website, and just make a list. It sounds easier than it is, but start making a list of different ideas and then decide where you want to start. What's realistic that you can start with? Don't tackle the biggest thing on the list first. Like just make a logical list of what to do. And one thing to keep in mind is Google's concept of EAT. And I'm gonna have Tyler explain it because he loves this concept. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna throw this one to you.
It's interesting because it's not a ranking factor, but it can definitely help you look stronger within the content that you're putting together. EAT is expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. The expertise that you showcase in the content that you're putting out there, and this is different for each industry too, whether it's specific to a product or the way you serve an industry, choosing and how you can show that expertise and what you can do for that industry or that user, help them with that product. The authority that you have within it comes in a variety of different ways. It can be showcasing how many years you've been supportive in that industry or what you've done with that. And that can go into the trustworthiness as well, because the more and more you showcase the first two, the more you can be trustworthy to a user. And this can go even to product reviews as well, having that trustworthiness to be able to showcase to the users, because that can be a focal point to lead to a quote or a contact us form, that CTA that you're really looking to push.
Perfect. So really write your content to a human being, not to Google. Okay, this one, in the interest of time, I know we've only got a couple minutes left. We just have a list of different types of content to consider to kind of get your juices flowing. So white papers, ebooks, PDF downloads, brochure downloads from different product pages, spec sheets, blogs we've talked a lot about, obviously your product pages, videos, infographics, testimonials. There's so many. So just start organizing it and think about where your gaps are.
So a question did come in a little while back, Emily, related to content.
Yeah.
Nicole was asking about videos. So do you find that adding videos to your content increases your rankings on Google? I know videos have been such a huge part of everything for a little while now. So
Yeah.
Can you speak to that for just a second?
Yeah, absolutely. In a nutshell, yes, it's going to help. I would just also make sure that you are not uploading them only to your website, have a YouTube channel, because Google will show video results in the search engine. It's hard to optimize a video on a website because really the optimization happens in the content around it. And then the video helps the user understand it. So a lot of people they'd prefer to watch a video than read an article. On the YouTube side, there are so many, we're not YouTube SEO experts, but there are a lot of ways to optimize your YouTube videos to include keywords. Take the keyword research and apply that to the title of the YouTube video, things like that, because people are heading to YouTube more as a search engine. So definitely. Good question. All right, bring us home, Tyler.
So to really close us off here, SEO gets better over time. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So keep that in mind. May not see those impacts day one. It's going to take time for you to see this effect of SEO, and you have to trust the process, really. So some takeaways with this, the action items for everyone, your quote unquote homework. Identify the pain points. Talk to your sales team, figure out what's not working well, and figure out how to resolve them and incorporate them in your website. Conduct that competitor analysis. Take a look at your competitors, look at different aspects of what they're doing, and try to work in the good of what they're doing to what you're doing. Set up GA4. Take the time to get that historical data, make sure everything's tracking appropriately and correctly, so that day one next year, when Google pushes at full force, all the ducks are in their row and everything's taken care of. And then finally, look into those content gaps, identify them in the market, and evaluate that content that you have on your website and find ways to maybe optimize it, improve it, and take that next step.
Great. We've made it to the end,
Awesome.
just in time.
If anybody has a last minute question that they'd like to chat in, now's your chance. We've only got a couple of minutes, but if you think of something afterwards and you just really want to get the answer, feel free to reach out. I will be in contact with you this week via email with the link to the presentation and any other maybe resources that we mentioned during the webinar, and a little bit of information about a webinar coming down the road featuring PPC. So no, Shane is not still here. Kevin, there's a question.
Oh, I remember Shane. We get a couple things from him here and there.
Yeah, we do still talk to Shane.